Mr. James Moss Solomon, General Manager of the company. On behalf of the Grace Kennedy Foundation and of its parent institution, the company, I have great pleasure in welcoming you to this 6th lecture in the Foundation's annual series. The subject, Leadership and Citizenship. A few words about the Foundation. Founded 12 years ago, on the company's 60th anniversary, our priority areas of assistance have been and are education, community services, and our heritage, with the greatest emphasis on the first, that is education. Thus, in addition to the grants that we have made, the Foundation administers a number of scholarships and bursaries to the UWI and CAST, and 2 chairs at Mona, endowed by the company, namely the Carlton Alexander Chair in Management Studies and the James Moss Solomon Senior Chair in Environmental Management. That is the newer of the 2. This lecture series was introduced in 1989 in order to provide further stimulus for public discussion on the lecture. The full text has been published and copies will be available here this evening. Moreover, it will be delivered via radio in a series of segments. We appreciate very much your interest in supporting us in the series, as always, and we are sure that you're going to find the lecture most interesting and informative. Now let me turn to ask the chairman of our lecture committee, Reverend Sam Reed, to introduce the lecturer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Grace Kennedy Foundation continues to have good fortune in securing the right people to treat the currently relevant subjects. In a year when the head of government feels the need to invite the country, Jamaican society, to introspect about attitudes and values, our subject, leadership and citizenship, is transparently relevant. Our guest speaker is a citizen who has exemplified in his life and in his work the values, attitudes, and achievements which we can confidently recommend to our children as worthy of emulation. Dr. S.Panton, Executive Chairman of Alcan Jamaica Limited, Alcan Jamaica Company, is this year's lecturer. He's one of our nation's fine achievers, combining with his personal success a deep commitment to the service and to the welfare of our country. Dr. Panton graduated from Wilmington College in Ohio, USA, then proceeded to complete his master's and his PhD degrees in economics at Washington State University. Apart from a short stint with the St. Elizabeth Parish Council, Dr. Panton's whole working life has been spent in the bauxite and alumina industry, especially the Alcan Jamaica Company, where he now sits at the pinnacle of responsibility in that company. He was recently ordained a priest in the Anglican Supplementary Ministry. He is a married man with one wife. And I must say that among his many distinctions, he boasts a wife who, in my view, has the nicest speaking voice in contemporary radio in Jamaica. Perhaps he will tell her that for me. I've had a chance to say so before. Dr. Panton and Barbara are parents of 4 children, 2 pairs, and his second son, at the moment, currently a Rhodes Scholar at that honored place where such scholars go. It is from this background in scholarship, service, manifest commitment, an extraordinary combination that Dr. Panton comes to us this evening to bring his lecture on leadership and citizenship in post-independence Jamaica, Whither the Partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Keith Panton, CD, PhD, our lecturer for 1994.
It's all right? Yes.
Thank you very much, Reverend Sam Reed, for that most generous introduction. Although I had not intended it to be so, I can't help but tell the story one more time of having gone back to my little district in St. Elizabeth, and I had to speak, and the speaker said, well, it is clear that this son of ours need no introduction. I give you, without any further ado, Mr. Panther. He said, it was and it was a most difficult time, because that was the time when Panther and Pearl were very, very prominent. Chairman, distinguished guests on the platform, or distinguished guests in the audience, and in particular the part I liked earlier, boys and girls, and I see a few of those. I'm reminded very much of the experience of Mark Twain. He had once, when he was doing his lecture tours, and he went into a local barber shop to get a shave, and the barber said, this is a good time to come to town, because guess who? Mark Twain is speaking. He said, have you bought your ticket yet, Mr. Twain? And he didn't call him Mr. Twain, I'm sorry, but have you bought your ticket yet? And he said, no. He said, but I'm sorry, because all the tickets are sold out. You will have to stand At which point, Mark Twain sighed and said, "Isn't it my luck? Every time this fellow speaks, I have to stand." I am happy to stand before you today to discuss a subject of some concern, but I am also very conscious of the fact that after a long day at work, you will have to sit through the next maybe 45 minutes or so, when instead you could be at home, feet up and relaxing. Outline the issues as I see them at stake. Concepts must share. Leadership in this context refers to the ability to guide in shaping the moral and ethical principles by which people live, and the uniting of the citizenry in the pursuit of well-defined and noble goals. But of course, leadership cannot be adequately understood or addressed without understanding those who are led, the citizens. I think it was Walter Lippmann who puts it, the final test of the leader is that he leaves behind in other men and other women the conviction and the will to carry on. And this speaks to my conviction that leaders and citizens must operate in a partnership towards common goals if the development process in Jamaica is to succeed, and to succeed in a sustainable manner. So what are the issues? We are witnessing, arguably, for the first time in Jamaica's post-independence history, widespread levels of apathy and frustration and despair and hopelessness across nearly all levels of our society. The euphoria of independence in the 1960s, bolstered by relatively high levels of economic growth, which was fueled by quite a bit of foreign investment, provided many Jamaicans with a sense of hope for our future. And this euphoria extended into a variety of political and cultural areas throughout the 70s, as Jamaica experimented with what appeared to be a progressive, distribution-oriented development strategy. And although the country experienced declines in its economic fortunes during the 1970s, feelings of hope for the future remained somewhat intact as people turned to a seemingly more growth-oriented path in the 80s and to greater deregulation and a free market orientation of the economy in the 1990s. Yet, no development path seems to have fulfilled the high expectations and basic desires of our citizens. And I believe it is this lack of fulfillment that is the primary source of what I call, and perhaps a controversial term, national despondency. This national despondency is made worse by harsh economic realities. Instances of grave injustices throughout society, a profound sense of disappointment in the electoral system, disenchantment with politics and patronage, corruption rampant at all levels, rapid increases in economic inequality, increasing pockets of poverty, and the high levels of violent crimes and murder. When we examine this crisis in Jamaica today, two phenomena stand out. First, the areas most affected by these negative attitudes are national leadership and participation in political life by a great number of the citizens. For example, over 300,000 voters on the voters list, some 1/3 of the Jamaican population did not exercise their right to vote in the March 1993 general election. That is, they did not participate in the choice of their government or their political leaders. Society's most basic unit and entire civilizations have survived or disappeared, depending on whether family life was weak or strong. But enough. I'd like to just turn